Dodge, Maine, the factory that built a city and then vanished. Today in Hamtramck, Michigan, there is an empty stretch of land where nothing hints at what once stood there. No monument, no plaque, no sound of machinery, just cracked concrete and grass forcing its way through the pavement. If you walked across this ground now, you'd never know that tens of thousands of people once passed through these gates every morning, that this place once powered an entire city. 67 acres of American industrial history, later sold for just $1. But to understand how that happened, we need to rewind more than a century. Two brothers and a bold vision. In June of 1910, two red-haired brothers stood on this exact land, watching surveyors mark off farmland owned by German immigrants. Their names were John and Horace Dodge, and they were about to build one of the most advanced automobile factories in the world. At the time, Hamtramck was a quiet village of just 3,500 people. Within 10 years, it would explode into a city of more than 50,000. The ground would shake, the factory would roar, and the brothers who built it would be dead before they could see its full legacy. From machine shops to motor kings, John Dodge was born in 1864 in Niles, Michigan, the son of a machinist. Horace followed 4 years later. They grew up around metal, tools, and blueprints, learning how machines worked long before they learned how to read novels. As teenagers, the brothers reportedly built their own bicycle from scrap metal after seeing a wealthy man ride past on one they couldn't afford. Whether that story is fact or legend, it perfectly captures who they were: practical, inventive, and obsessed with precision. John was intense and aggressive, a natural businessman. Horace was quiet, brilliant, and mechanically gifted. Together, they were unstoppable. Detroit and the birth of the auto age. By the late 1890s, Detroit was transforming. Horses were being replaced by engines. The Dodge brothers saw the future coming, and they positioned themselves perfectly. In 1900, they opened a small machine shop. Within a year, they were producing transmissions for Oldsmobile. Then in 1903, a struggling inventor named Henry Ford came knocking. Ford needed engines, axles, and transmissions. The Dodge brothers agreed, but demanded something unusual: ownership. Ford gave them a 10% stake in his company in exchange for parts worth $10,000. That decision would make them multimillionaires. The backbone of Ford Motor Company. For more than a decade, the Dodge brothers quietly powered the Model T revolution. Their factory produced the majority of the components that made Ford's cars reliable and affordable. While Ford had a handful of employees, the Dodge operation had over 100 skilled workers. But tensions grew. Ford refused to improve his designs. The Dodges wanted innovation. By 1913, the partnership was over. Building Dodge, Maine. That same year, the brothers broke ground on a massive new factory just north of Detroit. Designed by legendary architect Albert Kahn, Dodge, Maine used reinforced concrete, fireproof, durable, flooded with natural light. It was built fast. By the end of 1910, parts were already rolling off the lines. Soon came foundries, forges, power plants, rail connections, even a hospital and fire department. This wasn't just a factory, it was an industrial city. The Dodge Automobile. In 1914, the first Dodge automobile rolled out. It was better than the Model T in almost every way: more horsepower, an all-steel body, a 12-volt electrical system, better reliability, smarter design. Priced between cheap economy cars and luxury vehicles, it was aimed at America's growing middle class. The public loved it. Within 5 years, Dodge became the second largest automaker in the United States. A city is born. Hamtramck changed overnight. Immigrants, especially from Poland, poured in for factory jobs. Bakeries, churches, and boarding houses filled the streets. By 1920, the population had grown more than tenfold. Dodge, Maine employed over 20,000 workers and spanned 67 acres. Then tragedy struck. The brothers die young. In January 1920, both John and Horace Dodge fell ill with influenza while attending an auto show in New York. John died first. Horace followed less than a year later. They were in their early 50s. The visionaries were gone. From success to struggle. Without the brothers, Dodge slowly lost its edge. In 1928, the company was sold to Walter Chrysler, becoming part of Chrysler Corporation. Dodge, Maine kept growing until the Great Depression hit. Production collapsed, jobs vanished, then came labor unrest. The strike that changed America. In 1937, workers occupied Dodge, Maine in one of the largest sit-down strikes in U.S. history. For weeks, the factory was controlled by workers, families brought food, committees ran sanitation and security, war, boom, and decline. During World War II, Dodge, Maine ran non-stop, producing military equipment, even classified components for the Manhattan Project. Employment peaked at 40,000 workers, but after the war, the factory aged. Newer plants were cheaper and more efficient. By the 1970s, Dodge, Maine was obsolete. Then came oil crises, foreign competition, and Chrysler's financial collapse. The end of Dodge, Maine. In 1980, the factory closed. The last car, a blue Dodge Aspen, rolled off the line quietly. No ceremony, no speeches, thousands lost their jobs. Hamtramck lost its economic heart. Soon after, the entire factory was sold for $1 and demolished. What remains? Today, nothing stands where Dodge, Maine once dominated the skyline. No buildings, no machines, just memory. Hamtramck survived, transformed again by new waves of immigrants. The Dodge brand lives on, but far removed from the precision and philosophy of its founders. Two brothers built an empire. America prospered from it. And when it was no longer convenient, it vanished. War, boom, and decline. During World War II, Dodge, Maine ran non-stop, producing military equipment, even classified components for the Manhattan Project. Employment peaked at 40,000 workers, but after the war, the factory aged. Newer plants were cheaper and more efficient. By the 1970s, Dodge, Maine was obsolete. Then came oil crises, foreign competition, and Chrysler's financial collapse. The end of Dodge, Maine. In 1980, the factory closed. The last car, a blue Dodge Aspen, rolled off the line quietly. No ceremony, no speeches, thousands lost their jobs. Hamtramck lost its economic heart. Soon after, the entire factory was sold for $1 and demolished. What remains? Today, nothing stands where Dodge, Maine once dominated the skyline. No buildings, no machines, just memory. Hamtramck survived, transformed again by new waves of immigrants. The Dodge brand lives on, but far removed from the precision and philosophy of its founders. Two brothers built an empire. America prospered from it. And when it was no longer convenient, it vanished.